The miracle of a dream. It is always miraculous to see a dream take shape and form. Dreams in themselves are made of the chiffon of our hopes, desires, and aspiring. There may be no limit to their fabulous unfolding, rich in all the magic of the fantastic. A dream may be held at the focal point of one's mind and heart until it takes over the total process of one's thinking and planning, until at last we become the living embodiment of what we dream. This is the first miracle. We become our dream. Then it is that line between what we do and our dream melts away. A new accent appears in how we think. The signature of our dream must guarantee the integrity of our every act. Howard Thurman. Well, I said welcome to everybody, and we have a few announcements about the auction and about the shelter prelude. I thought you did the prelude. Wasn't that what we listened to?
Gathering.
Okay, sorry about that. Go right ahead.
Good morning. In honor of the opening words, which I thought were so beautiful about dreaming, I'm playing the child sleeping, slumbering, and obviously dreaming, and then the piece called Traumerei, which means basically daydreaming or dreaming, by Robert Schumann.
Thank you, Karen. That was amazing, as always. My mother used to play that. Not as well. Sorry, Mom. No, but it still touched my heart, and I'm grateful. Thank you. Okay, now it wouldn't be me leading if I didn't screw things up. So now we're on to the welcome and announcements and announcements. Yes, announcements for the auction and for the shelter. Oh. Wow.
Nancy, are you ready to get back in the swing? Yes, I am. Joanne. Are you? I am. Are you? Are you? Are you? All right. So
First step is register. Remember to register online. In the order of service that came out this morning, if you scroll down, there's a link to the website for the auction, and that's where you register. So at the top bar on that screen, there's a blue bar that says register or register. So that's the first step. And then it might find it helpful to also select the tab that says bidding info. That'll give additional instructions. So the silent auction, we'll just review from previous, the silent auction bidding is available online all this week, once you register, until noon Saturday. And will continue at the live auction in the salon, beginning at 5 o'clock. When you arrive Saturday night, because you're all coming, right? You're all coming to the live auction. First thing you do is go to the library to pick up your bidding paddle at the registration table. And then the live auction bidding is in person on Saturday, this coming Saturday, beginning at 6:45. Glasses are fogging up. So your donations, those of you who have made donations, thank you so much. That's what creates the auction, right? Those donations need to be in the office at Summit by Tuesday, so that we can put together those displays and things. And flappers, see Renee, there's a table in the back here to purchase her custom one-of-a-kind headbands. Boom, you've got your costume ready right there.
Easy.
Any questions? Anybody have any questions?
Will there be food?
Plenty.
Well, yes, of course. Savory appetizers will be in the salon during the silent auction. And then when you come to the sanctuary for the live bidding, you'll find desserts and a bar set up here in the back of the sanctuary.
I thought I saw something that you get like $10 in the office. Tickets for in-person registration.
Oh, at registration, you can get a ticket.
Oh. But I can do that here? Is that?
Not till the day of the auction that I know
Oh,
of. Yeah, day of only.
Okay, so when you come to registration, to pick up your paddle, you can purchase your ticket then.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's not on the website, right? Okay, so in person, the night of the auction, when you come pick up your paddle, you can purchase your ticket there.
Nancy?
Yeah, are you selling raffle tickets?
Raffle tickets will be sold during the evening of the live auction. The youth will be roaming around selling the raffle tickets, and the raffle items will be, I think, set up here in the sanctuary.
So can we purchase them when they open up the silent auction?
Yes.
Yeah,
So there's kind of a timeline when you go on the website to register. There's kind of a timeline of what happens when and where. And so everything begins at 5. Silent auction first, registration, doors open at 5 to get all that going.
If I'm bringing a guest, should I register that guest also?
Yes,
if they want to bid.
Okay, is the registration just for bidding at the live auction?
yes.
Bidding on any.
And you buy your ticket.
Alix.
Be a Summit member to register for the auction?
No. In fact, if you have friends that you want to come to the auction, could pass along that link and
Check your orders.
An email was sent out last evening about it, with the link and all the calendar and everything. Email, not the website. And forward that email to them.
it's also included in the order of service that went out this morning.
Yeah. So if you do have other friends or even other Summit members that you haven't seen in a long time, maybe this would be a good time to get in touch with them and remind them what's going on and bring them with you. So, great. Hey, thank you.
See you Saturday.
just a second, wait, I've got one more announcement about the auction, and that is that we do need people to bring dessert, either a dessert or an appetizer, and I will be calling you in the next few days to ask if you'll be willing to do that. So be thinking about what you could make for dessert or purchase for appetizer or whatever. And that's what makes it a lot of fun, is when we have all kinds of good food.
What time does the food start in the salon?
The appetizers will be set up in the salon around the silent auction stuff, and then desserts and coffee and a bar will be over here in the foyer.
5 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 o'clock. Okay, you want to talk about the shelter?
Don't move quite as fast as I used to. But, whatever. Good morning. Morning. And I want to update you on what's been going on in the shelter the last couple of months. So we have between 35 and 40 people, Sabbatarians, that have said they'd be interested in participating in the shelter, including Becca Milhood, who was a co-chair a couple of years ago, the last 2 shelters we've had, and she said she would supervise, open and supervise the last weekend up to Friday and Saturday nights, which is good. And so possibly, and so, well, when is the shelter? Okay, well, it's April 1st, the 15th, the first 2 weeks in April. And so, right, who else, are we getting any help? Yes, we have 5 churches that said they would help us, including 2 new ones, one of whom is in Santee. So that's okay. And other than that, the signups will start the last week in February, and they'll be in person, and I'm hoping online too. I'll keep you posted on that. We've got to figure that out. And so, but, other than that, thanks for your time. Question? Yeah, Nancy.
Yeah, Al, are we housing people here at Summit? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there will be, like we've had in the past, they will eat and shower and everything and socialize it in the salon, and also sleep back here and socialize, and we have computers set up for them to go online. A lot of people have their own.
And it is true that all the guests will be fully vaccinated.
Our guests will be vaccinated and also checked, any guests that check positive. What?
Folks at home can't hear you.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, any guest that checks positive will be taken out of the shelter that day, and there is a motel they can go to, so we're not gonna put them on the streets. They're just, so, but other than that, they will be checked, make sure they're negative every time they come back here, so.
Okay, the date of the shelter, is that subject to change depending on the state of the COVID, or are those hard dates?
No, it's not subject to change, but I thought that was, I asked for that because I thought any kind of COVID or whatever, surge, flu or such, that's surge, should be mostly over by the 1st of April, as the warm weather gets along. We get by the winter season here. And so, any other questions? Okay, thanks.
You want to introduce me, or shall I introduce myself? Okay. Who's that lady on there?
Yeah, let's see. Okay, oh, we got to do the chalice lighting.
Right.
And so chalice lighting will be read by Reverend Justine Sullivan, who is here from First Church, or still with First Church. And here's Justine. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna stand up here so y'all know how to party here. Get back in the swing. It is good to be with you.
Our chalice lighting words are by Judy Brown. What makes a fire burn is space between the logs, a breathing space. Too much of a good thing, too many logs packed in too tight can douse the flames almost as surely as a pail of water would. So building fires requires attention to the spaces in between as much as to the wood. And I bet y'all are campers and you know about building fires. When we are able to build open spaces in the same way we have learned to pile on the logs, then we can come to see how it is fuel and absence of the fuel together that make fire possible. We only need to lay a log lightly from time to time. A fire grows simply because the space is there, with openings in which the flame that knows just how it wants to burn can find its way. Come, let us be together in worship.
Thanks. I see, I forgot something else, and that's quite important, and that's our land acknowledgement. So before we do our UU hymn and UU aspiration, I'm going to do the land acknowledgement. We stand upon land that carries the footsteps of many generations of Kumeyaay people. This land is part of a relationship that has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced the Kumeyaay people to the present day. It is part of a worldview founded in the harmony of the cycles of the sky and balance of the forces of life. The balance of those forces provide for harmony within our bodies, as well as harmony with the world around us. We acknowledge this legacy from the Kumeyaay. We find inspiration in the Kumeyaay spirit to open our minds and hearts. So now I guess if you want to stand up, if you are able and willing, and we'll do our UU.
May the quest for truth be its sacrament, and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration.
That's me. The reading today is The Gift of Strawberries from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. It's funny how the nature of an object, let's say a strawberry or a pair of socks, is so changed by the way it has come into your hands as a gift or as a commodity. The pair of wool socks that I buy at the store, red and gray striped, are warm and cozy. I might feel grateful for the sheep that made the wool and the worker who ran the knitting machine. I hope so. But I have no inherent obligation to those socks as a commodity, as private property. There is no bond between the politely exchanged thank you with the clerk. I have paid for them, and our reciprocity ended the minute I handed her the money. The exchange ends once parity has been established, an equal exchange. They become my property. I don't write a thank you note to J.C. Penney. But if those very same socks, red and gray striped, were knitted by any grandmother and given to me as a gift, that changes everything. A gift creates ongoing relationships. I will write a thank you note. I will take good care of them. And if I am a very gracious grandchild, I'll wear them when she visits, even if I don't like them. When it's her birthday, I will surely make her a gift in return. As the scholar and writer Lewis Hyde notes, it is the cardinal difference between gift and commodity exchange that a gift establishes a feeling bond between two people. Wild strawberries fit the definition of gift, but grocery store berries do not. It's the relationship between producer and consumer that changes everything. As a gift thinker, I would be deeply offended if I saw wild strawberries in the grocery store. I would want to kidnap them all. They were meant not to be sold, only to be given. Hyde reminds us that in a gift economy, one's freely given gifts cannot be made into someone else's capital. I can see the headline now. Woman arrested for shoplifting produce. Strawberry Liberation Front claims responsibility. That is the fundamental nature of gifts. They move, and their value increases with their passage. The fields made a gift of berries to us, and we made a gift of them to our Father when we served them as his favorite dessert. The more something is shared, the greater its value becomes. This is hard to grasp for societies steeped in notions of private property, where others are, by definition, excluded from sharing. Practices such as posting land against trespass, for example, are expected and accepted in a property economy, but are unacceptable in an economy where land is seen as a gift to all. That's me again, sorry. Okay, I was so moved by that reading and I forgot where I was. So time for all ages. And Mary Carter Vale is going to present a celebration.
Good morning. I'd like to invite the Mitchell family to come up if they're willing. You know, at Summit, we celebrate when people arrive. We don't always celebrate when people depart. So we'd like to celebrate the Mitchell family today. I was thinking this weekend, it's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. And with Monday being a holiday, in my family, that would be a day when we volunteered to do something, to get out and do some good work. And I can't think of a better time to honor the Mitchells because of all that they've done and brought to Summit. So I first met them when Simon was a tiny baby. We actually saw your picture in the film when you were in the baby front carrier and they came, and now he's in first grade. First grade. That's a long time. Simon was in the nursery and transitioned to RE right before we went virtual with COVID. And they were one of the first families to come back. They attended, sometimes it's just Simon, Andy, and I in the morning on our Zoom calls. And then they started coming back immediately when we started meeting in the parking lot. And we brought this bouquet of flowers because we thought it would be a good representation of all the ways that they've contributed to this community that we wanted to acknowledge. So both of you were RE volunteers in various forms. And Andy is very active on Social Justice and Action Committee, worked with us on the social media grant and the ethical eating before we went virtual. We worked on that. Tyler has been one of our Zoom manager for a very long time. We're so grateful for that. And also has pinch hit for Patrick when Patrick needed to be gone. He learned how to work that system as well. And he also head up our Worship Sunday Services Committee, which was so gratefully appreciated and actually helped us reformat in a way that seems to be working really well right now. He's been our auctioneer twice, 3 times with and once with a puppet, and once, didn't you do once with with Nick. So three times. And recently is on the board. So, and another thing that this family has done is they've brought in new families. They brought several new families to come to be part of our RE program. So all these flowers represent all of different things. Eleanor picked out the cabbage because she felt like that one really represented the ethical eating. And then we have some parting gifts. These are our 25th anniversary hats. This is our 35th year. So just add 10. Just add 10. One for you too, Simon. You can all have them. And then we have Eleanor bought this book, How to Raise an Anti-Racist by Dr. Ibrahim X. Kendi. And this is a signed copy for your family. And then we have a Summit cookbook because you know we love our food here. And then a couple books for Simon that the Weed family have donated, especially the Little Book of Joy. And I want to give this to you to remind you that there's always joy here and joy will follow you wherever you go. So let's celebrate the Mitchell family and thank them for being part of our community. And Simon's cat too. Thank you so much. Simon, do you want me to help me lead the children's affirmation? You want to do the fingers with me? We can do I'll do it then here. We are Unitarian Universalists, a people of open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. And I'm going to head back to RE. Anybody who wants to come play, welcome to join me.
All right. Gifts freely given. What a lovely thing to do. You know, in this very transient culture, it's so important to say hello and goodbye. Well, so let me just introduce myself. I'm the Reverend Justine Sullivan. I'm currently serving as lead developmental minister at First UU San Diego. The developmental part means that I'll be there for 4 years, helping them kind of sort through some things that they have going on. But let us raise our voices in song. You may stand in body or spirit if you wish, and let us sing Where Do We Come From? It's number 1003 in the Teal hymnal. It has 4 parts. Don't worry, we'll be able to sing them all. We'll do each one at a time, and then we'll try it as a round. I'll bring you in each group, and all will be well.
Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery. Mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery.
Nicely done. Thank you.
All ended on the same last note anyway. That's good. Okay. We'll now have our offering. Generosity is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as ushers come to accept the gifts of the congregation. Thank you.
We'll play this morning the Woodland Piece by Edvard Grieg.
Thank you, Karen. You know, when you have a musician like Karen who really understands the role of music in worship, I might get into trouble for saying this, but you don't really need anything else. But here I am, all dressed up. Will you pray with me? Spirit of life and love, we are mindful that so many things are not just one thing. The rain that has been falling over these many days has caused great harm in the north of us, with flooding streets and homes and lives lost. And yet here, as I was driving here this morning, our parched hills have turned so lush and green, and the rain is just what they needed. May we learn to hold both joy and sorrow, want and abundance. And on this anniversary of the birth of Martin Luther King Jr., may we remember him and remember what he taught us about the inescapable web of mutuality that we live in together as humans, living with other beings, sharing the earth with all living things. May we be mindful, may we be grateful, and may we be good stewards. Amen. Blessed be. Ashe. So I'm wearing this robe here this morning that came to me from a beloved friend, colleague, mentor after her death. The Reverend Jean Pupke served as senior minister in Richmond, Virginia for many years, and she died in a tragic accident just a few months before she was set to retire. It's very, very sad, of course. And her wife wanted for Jean's ministry to live on, and it will in all that she did. But Regina sent out to colleagues the robes and stoles that Jean wore during her ministry, and I was gifted this robe. And when it arrived, I took it out of the box and put it on, and I reached into the pocket, and there was a pen. And I thought she was probably somewhere editing something. Before she was a UU minister, Jean had been a Catholic nun. And as a former Catholic, I have to tell you that Jean had some of that scary nun energy. If you've seen the movie Doubt with Meryl Streep, that kind of scary, stern. You didn't mess with Jean. And she invited me to preach at her big church in Richmond. This was before the pandemic. There were 2 services packed. I gave a sermon about resistance. I mentioned Black Lives Matter. I was feeling pretty good. Got in some Wendell Berry. And after the service, she motioned to me to come to her office. And she said, Justine, that sermon was written for white people. And we have Black people in this church too, and especially at the second service where we have a gospel choir, there'll be more African Americans in the service. I looked at my watch. Oh, you have time. So I took out my pen and I made some edits and crossed out some things and added some things, and it was better. She was right. It was much better. And I noticed her nodding approval from the back of the meeting house. We all carry people with us wherever we go, the lessons we've learned, the people that have touched us, the family that you acknowledged this morning and wished well as they head off into their next journey. And it's really good to be here. I'm sorry that it has taken me so long to come here and be with you. I started August 1st at First UU San Diego, and this is actually the first Sunday that I've been away from there. It's been pretty busy, but I have been looking forward to being with you in worship. I did come here over the summer and met with Mary and got a tour. And I remember it was very dry, dusty. And so to drive up here this morning with the green hills was really something. So when I was asked to preach here, I spoke with a couple of your leaders and I asked, what do you think folks would like to hear about? And the person I spoke with said, well, we've got some questions about this land acknowledgement issue. And could you tell us how we could get more volunteers for things? And I thought, there it is right there. Right? That the conflict between the big and the small, the transformative and the mundane, the external and the internal focus of a congregation. How to do it all, how to get it right, how to hold both. Keeping track of all the things going on in the world, the ways in which we are changing, and the ways in which our perspective on things is changing. How to keep track of all that while just trying to stay afloat, maybe not the best metaphor, while just trying to stay on track. Keeping the lights on and the coffee brewing, fair trade coffee served in our compostable paper cups. Now, I'll talk about those two things, the land acknowledgement and the how to get more volunteers. But first, I just want to acknowledge that gulf between and hang out for a bit in that space in between, that liminal space. Do you remember back at the very beginning of the pandemic? What was it, like 7 or 8 years ago when this all started? No, it was 3 years ago. March 8th was the last time we met in service, March 8th, 2020, March of 2020. And I remember we had our service and the big thing was a public service announcement on washing your hands, right? And then as the week progressed, we thought, well, maybe we shouldn't have any food at coffee hour. And then it was, well, maybe we shouldn't have coffee hour. And then it was, we can't worship in person this week. It's too dangerous. So all that happened. And I don't know about y'all, but the church I was serving, we had been talking and talking and talking about having an online presence. And we could never quite get there. It was too expensive, too complicated. And then in 2 days, we figured out a way to put a service up on Zoom. It was terrible, mind you. I was trying to lead worship and I was sharing my screen and I got confused about what was the screen I was sharing and what was at one point I just started laughing. Said, it was terrible, but we did it. And the Reverend Meg Riley, do you know who she is? She led the Church of the Larger Fellowship for years. She reached out to all the ministers. She scheduled a Zoom with all the parish ministers. And she said, friends, we at the Church of the Larger Fellowship have been leading online worship for years. We've got it down, the technology and all this. Don't try to do that. Focus on connection. Look into the camera and remind your people that you love them, that we will get through this. We have such high standards for ourselves and each other. Remember during the shutdown, some people baked all their own bread, crocheted curtains for every window and door in their home. Others of us barely made it through, right? Some of us had to etch little marks on the cave wall so we would know what day it was. I can remember at one point, I was going to feed my dog and I thought, did I already feed her or was that yesterday? And of course, Callie would not tell me that she'd already eaten. So I had to come up with a system to remember what day it was. But we judged ourselves so harshly if we were in that second category, right, of barely getting through. And I was thinking about horror movies. You know, there's kind of a predictable flow to the story of a horror movie. There's a threat that people ignore at first, except for the wise ones, who no one listens to. And then after a while, there's no ignoring it. That asteroid is headed this way. The dinosaur has escaped the park. The monster is on the loose. And everyone is hiding out, hunkering down until the threat is contained. You know, Steve McQueen comes with the fire extinguisher. And then the people come out of, I'm sorry to give that movie away if you hadn't seen it. Like, that's a bad thing. And then the people come out of hiding and there's much rejoicing and maybe even some apologies for not listening to the people who raised the alarm. But here's what doesn't happen in those horror movies. Nobody says, during that time, those months that we were hiding from the monster, I wish I'd worked on my Spanish. I wish I'd read the works of Shakespeare, learned to bake bread. No, no one says that. You survived. We survived. The threat is not gone, but we have a way forward, right? There are vaccines, tests, masks. We are taking care of ourselves and each other. And I do want to say, you may know this, but you've noticed that I'm not wearing a mask and Jenny is not wearing a mask. The protocol here is that worship leaders come in and test, and then assuming we test negative, we're able to be unmasked. And that's really so that you can hear us. You may have noticed that it's harder to discern like consonants and pick out words carefully when we're wearing a mask. And for those of us that use our eyes to hear as much as our ears, it really helps when we're speaking and listening. So that's why it feels a bit uneven, and I just feel like I should acknowledge that. So thank you for that gift of letting us be unmasked up here. Let's not forget that we have all been through a terrible trauma. And I know we talk about this a lot, but on September 11th, 2001, 3,000 people, about 3,000 people died in the World Trade Centers on live television, right? Most of us remember where we were when we watched that. 3,000 people died. During the height of the pandemic, in this country, 3,000 people a day died for weeks and weeks and weeks. Most of us have lost someone. All of us know someone who lost someone. And like the horror movie where some people can see the threat and sound the alarm, but no one listens, well, we experienced some of that ignorance, didn't we? Willful ignorance during the last administration, the former guy. And it cost lives, 1 million lives lost to this illness. We are still recovering. So I want to remind you and remind all of us to be gentle with yourselves and with each other. We are hurting and fragile and so tired. Amen? Are we tired? So about the land acknowledgement issue. Now you all have a lovely land acknowledgement that you say, so maybe I misunderstood when I think it was Eleanor said that that was kind of an issue. Maybe some folks are wondering why we do this. And at First UU San Diego, each Sunday we say that we are gathering on stolen land of the Kumeyaay. And you all say words that are less harsh than that, but still you acknowledge that this land was occupied. People lived here and the white settlers came in and pushed them out. And they're still here. They're still here, but they've been pushed onto smaller, less fertile ground. So they've been pushed off some of their lands and kind of contained, but they are still here. So at First UU, I asked around a bit about the origins of this, how we came to have the words that we say, and no one really seemed to know when or how or why we started saying those words. Now, I didn't do an exhaustive search. I'm sure I could have found the people that did it, but you can learn a lot by just asking somebody, that's not in the center of things, what they understand about this. I think that's very telling, kind of what the average churchgoer understands about this. And at least at First UU, I don't think it's widely understood. And maybe it's different here. Maybe you all worked on this together, but I suspect that if someone mentioned it to me, there might be some of you wondering, why say words that just make us feel bad if we're not actually doing anything about it? Is that some sentiment that resonates with some of you? And what I would say to that is that it's so important to be in relationship. And actually the words that you say are about relationship. Recently, a group of about 20 of us from First UU went to the Kumeyaay Cultural Center in Verona. I don't know if some of you have been there. It's a small museum with artifacts and some videos, actually a wonderful video and a wonderful timeline that was created by the children of the community. Being there in that space, seeing that history made the words that we say each Sunday come alive and feel more relevant, at least to me. We will return there with more people. And I encourage you to consider going. We went with children and adults together. We will be adding members of the Kumeyaay community to our generosity offering. We often do a generosity offering for neighboring organizations. And I hope that there will be shared work, maybe shared worship, gathering, a relationship. So what I would offer to you, those of you who are wondering why we're doing this, it's possible to have it be the beginning of developing a relationship with, as you point out, people who are our neighbors. We're the uninvited guests, but they are our neighbors, and maybe we could act like neighbors and be neighbors to one another. So I encourage you to think about that, and maybe we could talk about that sometime, doing some things together. But in the meantime, right, the big and the small, you need volunteers for lots of things. The homeless shelter. Now, I got your weekly email, and I know we've just met, but may I speak honestly? My first thought was, yikes, there's a lot of things that you all are doing and needing people to do. PFLAG, you need ushers and greeters. And I think you're doing some small group ministry and fundraisers and other gatherings, the auction, which sounds like it's going to be great fun. That is quite a list. Maybe you can't do it all right now. Right? A fire needs fuel and the absence of fuel to grow. Too many logs will douse a fire as surely as a pail of water. Focus on connection. Does joining a committee have to be a life sentence? Think about the tasks that need doing and see if there might be new ways, simpler ways to get those essential tasks done. And then rest, play, sing together, breathe together. Acknowledge the gifts that surround you. And there are gifts in this congregation. I see them, I feel them in your presence. Like wild strawberries, they are a gift given by the earth, received by the beings who find them delicious. Let us be blessed by and grateful for those surprising gifts of juiciness, of red-stained fingers that lift the berries to our mouths. There is still abundance. There is still beauty. The great African-American theologian Howard Thurman said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive, and then do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive." In this in-between time, this liminal time, let us learn what it is that makes us come alive and pursue that. When newcomers arrive, we could ask them to join our committees. Or we could ask them about what they love, what they long for. Maybe the banker doesn't want to be treasurer. but she might mentor a treasurer. Maybe what she really wants to do is dig in the garden or paint with the children or sing in the choir. We won't know unless we ask and then listen. And it could be so hard to listen when we're all revved up in this time of crisis and worry and endless bad news. Let us remind ourselves and each other to breathe. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. May it be so. And now let us sing together our closing song, Building a New Way. Number 1017. Fine singing. As I mentioned in my sermon, these closing words from Howard Thurman: don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. May it be so.
Definitely words that bear repeating. Let's see, we have our closing circle song, and then if you would like to remain afterwards and have a discussion with Reverend Justine regarding the land acknowledgement or volunteering, or committees, whatever floats your boat.
Joy.
Yeah, or joy, that's a good one. That kind of weaves through everything. So let's all stand as you're willing and able. And if you'd like to come together in a circle, you can either, if you feel comfortable holding hands, that's fine. If you don't, just connect your elbows or whatever works for you. Wow, we've got a big circle to this today. Look at this. Wow. Together, hand in hand, in fellowship we stand. Before we go, share our love, standing hand in hand. Together, hand in hand, in fellowship we stand. Through laughter, tears, through hopes and fears, together we shall stand. Thank you, Reverend Justine. That was wonderful.